Welcome to the Ebb and Glow podcast. I'm your host, Jenelle Tremblett, and I'm a firm believer that even when life doesn't go as planned, it is taking you exactly where you're meant to be. On this podcast, I'm here to help you finally release control of what you think you want and begin to just trust in the ebbs and flows of life. Each week, I will show you how to build that positive mindset, radiate with self-confidence, and cultivate an unshakable resilience. Let me prove to you that even when life ebbs, you will glow. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ebb and Glow podcast. I'm your host, Jenelle, and I'm happy you are here this week because today's topic is some of my favorite types of topics. Today we're talking about the pure resiliency that you build after you have failed businesses and how many times you have to embrace failure before you really find success. And my guest today, Jaclyn Gallo, is no stranger to failure and how that will eventually teach you resilience and lead you to the success and the life that you want. Jaclyn is a force to be reckoned with. She is the CEO of Clarity and Action Consulting, a women's empowerment company on a mission to help women create lives they love. She is also a life coach, 2 times bestselling author, TEDx speaker, and host of the popular Spark Your Light podcast. At age 21, Jaclyn started her business from her dorm room at Georgetown University, and today she has spoken at over 125 conferences in 7 countries. Jaclyn has also been featured by Forbes, Elite Daily, Bustle, and Washington Business Journal, and her book has been featured on Good Morning Washington. Rather than viewing failure as only a part of success, Jaclyn actually sees it as the key to success, the secret sauce that so many are searching for. Jaclyn learned this lesson firsthand when she spent $50,000 on business ideas that never made it off the ground. In this episode with Jaclyn, you're going to hear how she went from a broke college student with failed business ideas to a successful entrepreneur who has mentored and inspired thousands of women. One of the things I loved that she said is you need to start acting as if. Start envisioning the life that you want and start speaking it into existence. It doesn't matter if you're there yet. If you start saying it and start acting like it, it's only a matter of time that your dream life is going to arrive. So I loved that Jaclyn said that, and it was a nice reminder that I really needed to hear. I'm excited for you to hear this episode because I know you are going to leave this feeling inspired, feeling motivated, and ready to start creating your dream life. Okay, without further ado, let's get to it. Jaclyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here.
It's a pretty stellar resume so far.
Working on it.
When you think back when you were 21 and like starting that first business, did you think you'd ever be featured in any of those articles or on Good Morning Washington? Like, it's crazy.
Honestly, I think that you wish my answer would be like, no, I'm so surprised in myself. And I'm like, I'm just getting started. And I've known that since I was a little girl. And I think that's the kind of self-confidence we all need.
Did you always have that though?
Yes.
Where do you think that came from?
My father, he told me every day of my childhood, literally, I'd be like doing the smallest thing. Like, I'm like, Dad, I want to do a cartwheel. And I would like fall. And he'd be like, Jaclyn, you can do anything you set your mind to. Just keep trying. And that affirmation, you can do anything you set your mind to, became a neural pathway and became something I believed with every fiber of my being. And I still do. And I think it is like one of the best affirmations for self-confidence and resilience.
It's amazing how, like, as a parent, they're saying that very flippantly. Like, they think this is basic parenting skills. Like, tell your kids they can be whatever they want. I mean, that's in like every children's storybook, right? And what we want to instill in all children. And I grew up the exact same way. So yeah, I recognize that like deep down internal confidence and assurance in kind of anything you do. And it's nothing to do with skill level. It's nothing to really do with hard work. Like, yeah, of course, those 2 things will come, but it's like, yeah, this like deep inner knowing that whatever you choose, you'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, if you're listening to this and you didn't have that blessed experience where you were spoken things like that, the good news is you can rewire your brain at any age. So you can start practicing that affirmation every day. You can start taking actions to prove that to yourself and become that person today. So just know that this isn't something that's reserved for those people who had like a great childhood. It's for everyone.
Thank you for pointing that out because yeah, both of us were blessed with some great parents, but obviously we have other downfalls and traumas in our life, but we got lucky in that area for sure. I want to talk about at your early 20s, you already had 2 failed businesses and already lost and spent $50,000. I mean, you're in university, so you have student debt probably, plus then 50 grand just wasted on 2
quote unquote failed businesses. Where's your head at this point? And what were those 2 businesses?
Yeah. So my first business idea was to make a plate that encouraged healthy eating. And it was going to cost $10,000 to order the initial order from this factory I found that I liked. So I waitressed on campus. I saved up $4,000 and my parents lent me $6,000. So that was the first $10,000 that I spent. And long story short, the plates came and nobody wanted them. I only sold them to my family and friends. And I learned so many things that I just didn't consider about business and selling a product and marketing and all of these things. So I quickly knew that they weren't working and I knew I needed to pivot. And the first time it was hard, but I felt like everyone fails. You hear lots of stories about success and it's normal to have a failure. So I would say the first failure was not easy, but it was doable to pick myself back up. I had enough resilience to say, this is normal. This is part of the process. It's kind of like when you have your first relationship and it doesn't work out and you're like, well, a lot of people don't marry the first person they date, so it'll probably work out. And then it does. Same thing was true here. So after I knew I was going to pivot, my second idea was to build an app. And I raised $20,000 for the app. And then later, I think like a year after that, I got another like 20,000 in different like grants and pitch contests that I won to like fund this app. And even though it seemed like I had a lot of money, actually it wasn't much at all. A lot of the quotes for apps were, 100K, 200K. And this was like supporting my whole business, keep in mind. So like my website and all these other natural business expenses you have going since I'm in college. And I hired college students. They developed the beta test of the app. I recruited a bunch of young women to be our beta testers. And immediately I got the feedback. It's crashing. It has bugs. It's not working in the middle of me using it. And so I knew at that moment that I either had to pivot again or go raise venture capital and get experienced developers to fix this. I kind of just wanted to give up. I didn't want to do either of those things, to be honest. This was the second failure. This was the one that I was like, okay, maybe this isn't meant for me. My big thing was I just wanted to be happy. The reason I started the business in the first place was I wasn't happy at my corporate internship. And I thought there was more out there for me. And I thought a business would not make me happy because I was never the kind of person to like completely put my happiness in something else. I know that that's not healthy, but make me feel fulfilled, help me find joy every day in the work I'm doing. And I didn't feel that. It's very hard to feel that, if not impossible, when your basic needs aren't met. When at this point in my life, I was about to try to buy a house with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, I couldn't rub 2 pennies together. I didn't have any money in my savings account, starting to rack up credit card debt. Like it was really hard to be happy at that situation. So I thought to myself, maybe I should just get a job. Maybe I should just give up. And I turned to personal development because I felt depressed. And I felt like even if I get a job, I'm going to take myself with me and I'm still going to be depressed at my job. So I just started reading as many books as I could and starting to implement these practices. The one good thing about being at your rock bottom is that you're willing to try anything. So I did all the journaling. I did the things I read in these books. I did the mindset shifts and things started changing. I started feeling better. I started feeling more open. I started believing more things were possible. And one day I came across a Facebook ad for an online course about speaking. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sign up for that course. It was like my intuition was pushing me towards it, saying like, this is it. Long story short, the speaking took off really quickly. I started getting booked really quickly. I then had people come up to me after my speeches and ask me if I could help them. So I started life coaching, and that was back in 2019. And since then, I've really just built my business out to include like more scalable income streams. Like I have a membership, I sell online courses. I've now written 2 books. I'm working on my 3rd. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't give up because I can say I'm living my dream life. I love every day so much. And I do have that pure happiness. And I wouldn't say it's because of my success. I think it's really the happiness that came from the lessons along the journey. And obviously achieving your goals is really fun, but it's the pursuit of them that creates the most joy, I find. And that's actually what my next book is about. So I'm really proud of myself. And I would say that the best lesson is don't give up. Even when you fail multiple times, keep going.
Absolutely. And I applaud you. So many people, as I said, normally give up after the first failure. They think, okay, I failed. Maybe I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I just go back to my regular job. I'm just not meant to do this. But you, like you said, were fine after the first failure. And you're like, yes, this happens. The second failure hurt you a lot more.
Yeah.
But then you went again. You still had this deeper knowing that I feel like you knew that I need to work for myself. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I know I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And why I think that is you started with a physical product, then you went fully app and technology, and now you're a service-based business. So those are literally the three areas.
Yeah.
You've done all three, but obviously being an entrepreneur is still connected to all three of them. But now you've landed where I feel like you have a lot more alignment.
For sure. And I think I see the failures as just like redirections to this work I was meant to do, but I wouldn't be able to do it without those failures because I help so many women who are in failures or who are struggling to figure out what they're meant to do with their life. And without those lessons, I wouldn't be able to do this work.
When you talk about failures, as you said, it's very easy to get over the first one oftentimes because you're like, okay, as an entrepreneur, it's probably going to take a try or two. But after that second failure, you did a lot of self-development, like you said, but what specifically? Like, how did you, quote unquote, get back on the horse and want to do this again?
Yeah, I think there's two parts. There's like the action part in the moment, and there's everything that led up to it. So it's almost like preventative care versus emergency care. So I'll talk about the preventative care first. So this actually goes back to what I was saying about my childhood. When I was giving my TED talk, I was giving it about this exact moment. What caused me to get back up when other people don't? And what I looked at in order to figure this out, because it's hard to put yourself back in it when you're no longer in it. So I went back to my old journal prompts and I read my journals and I read what I wrote, and I found numerous entries that had the same theme. The theme was they were filled with pain. 90% of it was pain. This is so hard. I don't know if I can do it. I should probably just give up. I don't know if I have what it takes. But then there were sentences of hope. And they said things like, but I don't want to sell myself short because I know I can do this. And that hope was my self-belief. And so what I believe is that courage is a result of having a little bit more self-belief than fear. So we're taught this narrative that we're supposed to be fearless. I think it's total BS. I think that fear is completely normal and we feel it at every level. But if we can raise our self-belief up just a little bit more than the fear, we'll take the next step. So I do believe that a lot of that self-belief came from my childhood and my subconscious mind, which is primarily wired between birth and 7 years old. But like I said earlier, the cool news is that anyone can rewire their brain at any age. And the brain's language is repetition. So affirmations are a great place to start. We can talk about a lot of different tips on rewiring your brain, but that's a great place to start. So if you are someone who feels like your self-belief isn't there, you don't have more self-belief than fear, that's where you need to start. That is that preventative medicine that's going to prepare you for any failure. You can improve this self-belief in a lot of different ways. So like I said, affirmations are great. Another thing that I recommend is doing resilience building activities. So one of my favorite ones is doing a really hard workout at least once a week where you are so physically challenged that you don't know if you're going to be able to make it through. Because at the end of it, you look back and you're like, wow, I can do hard things. You want to truly believe that you can do hard things. So you need to put yourself in physical positions where you do hard things. Another thing that I recommend in my TEDx talk is take a cold shower. Maybe do it every day for a week, or maybe one day a week, do it. Do I still do this as a normal practice? Hell no. I love taking hot showers. But when I had no self-confidence and when I really need to build my resilience, or moments in my business that I was feeling really low, first thing I did was go to that freezing cold shower, the coldest temperature that the shower will go, and stay in there and do your full normal hair washing, the whole thing. And then you're like, you know what? I just got through that. And that was so uncomfortable. And I can get through uncomfortable things. And I'm willing to do that for the life I want to live. And so work on that resilience building. That's like the preventative care. Outside of that, the emergency care is what do you do when you're in the depths of the failure? Because not that it's too late for those things. You can go take a cold shower, go for a run and try to run 1 mile longer than you think you can, or do these things. But the best thing is just take the pressure off and ask yourself, what's the next step? And sometimes the next step is just go to sleep, feed yourself dinner, take care of yourself. Maybe do your laundry that you haven't done in 3 weeks, right? Whatever it is for you. And then once you do that, then what's the next step after that? Okay, the next step after this is to look at my finances. Maybe you had a failure that is impacting your financial situation. Maybe you lost your job. Maybe the business product failed, right? Okay, maybe the next step is just log in, look at the bank account, see what steps need to be taken. Okay, then the next step after that is maybe brainstorm a list of 5 ways you can create some income to bridge this gap between your next idea or the next thing you're going to pursue. And so just taking it one step at a time is the most underrated success tip in the entire world. The number of times that I see clients get caught up in future problems that never happen is limitless. And they waste their energy, their thoughts, and they're emitting a vibration that is very negative because they're spinning in problems and then they're attracting more problems versus focusing on solutions. What's my next step? That's a solution that feels empowering, that feels good, even when it's just a small step. So if you are in the midst of a failure, that's always the go-to. And I still do this to this day. I say, okay, this is hard. I'm feeling crappy. What's the next step?
These are all fantastic tips. So what I'm gathering from you is if you can get through something physically exhausting, you can probably do it mentally and emotionally. And those are the ones we need to be able to run your own business or work in any kind of capacity. And then what I'm also hearing from you, which I love, is rewiring those neural pathways. Name one belief that you have about yourself. Okay, let's go. Like, I live in Toronto. I know that because it's real, but it's like, I've said that so many times that like, it's fact. Or I'm confident. You say that so many times, you really start to believe it more than you fear being that, as you said. What I want to know from you, though, which I think will be extremely relatable to everyone, is I want to dig in a little deeper to the thoughts and feelings you were having during that corporate internship. Like, I want to ask because I know how I used to feel and I now work for myself. So I feel like it's pretty similar. And the answer is not everyone quit your corporate job and run your own business. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur, like at all. But I want to see like what resonates with you, because I remember being in my corporate jobs or my corporate internships, and every day I was like, no, like this can't be it. But like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur, but I think everyone is meant to do work that they enjoy and that they feel fulfilled from, and that supports their life goals, whatever they are. So encouraging everyone to know that that's possible for them. I thought that leading into an entrepreneur, my thoughts would be like, this is horrible. I can't do this one more day. But the truth is, it was more like mediocre feelings.
It's like when you're in a relationship, you're like, do I break up with them? But like, they haven't actually done anything wrong. I don't really have any like tangible things that's wrong. Just meh.
Exactly. I felt like I was at an 80 out of 100 in terms of maybe joy and fulfillment. And I wondered if it was possible
really
to
high,
get
though.
to 100. It was totally, I mean, I'm a very happy person. Like my entire life, I'm very positive, enjoy every situation, but I wasn't all the way there. And I wanted to know if it was possible to get all the way there.
Were you surrounded by people who inspired you?
I was interested in their careers, but I wouldn't say I was inspired by the work they were doing.
Yeah, I feel that. I think back to some of my jobs, I would look around and I'm like, I do not want the life you have in my future at all. And then I was in other jobs that I would look at some of the people that were a little higher up than me being like, yeah, you're really doing well in your career, but I still don't want it.
Yeah.
And that's when I started having to look like internally, being like, I would look at the person above me in terms of position, and I would think to myself, I have literally no interest in your job. So I would think like, why the hell am I here? If I'm a very ambitious person and I want to achieve. So if I don't want the next step, then why the hell am I even in this step? And that's when I had to start looking internally.
So good. I love that.
I know so many people that sit in their jobs day in, day out and just kind of waiting till 5 o'clock, waiting till Friday. And I just don't know. Like you say, you're 80 out of 100. I think there's a lot of people listening to this right now that would love to get to 80.
Yeah. I wasn't willing to live a life of 80. We have one life to live. And I think about so many sacrifices my parents made, my grandparents, my great grandparents that were immigrants to the US and almost died on these really dangerous journeys, like all that they did for us. And I'm going to live a life of 80 to watch my parents struggle and give everything to their kids. And I'm going to live a life of 80. I'm not okay with that. And I don't think anyone listening should.
Yeah, I feel that. One of your recent posts, you said a big misconception about positive mindset is thinking you had to be happy all the time. What do you mean by that?
I think that people think they're supposed to feel happy all the time. And that's what 100 is. 100 is not being happy all the time. 100 is loving the journey, the ups and downs, knowing that the downs are going to suck and be painful. And no matter how much success you've created, no matter how many of your life goals you've achieved, there's going to be downs because we've been put on this earth to learn and grow and evolve and become the best versions of ourselves. And the way we do that is by experiencing challenges. It's feeling as good as you can throughout the ups and downs. So the downs are going to feel crappy, of course, but you have this inner knowing that everything's okay. And that even though the hard times are hard, they're all happening for you and they're all guiding you to be better. And if you do just like try to fake happy all the time and brush your emotions under the rug, what's really happening is the negative emotions are getting stronger and stronger, which if we look at like energetically in terms of vibration, what's happening is you're emitting a very, very low vibration. You're attracting things that match that vibration into your life, some more crappy things, and then it just repeats the cycle versus processing your emotions, feeling your emotions. So that's why I said, like, when you're feeling low in the failure, like you don't need to just pick yourself back up tomorrow and go, rebuild the company or get a different job. It's like, it's healthy to learn how to process your emotions. Maybe you journal, maybe you exercise, maybe you talk to a friend or therapist, but to learn how to process those emotions is so important. So yeah, I think I'm really glad you brought that up because I don't want people to think 100 means feeling happy all the time, but it means waking up like majority of the days excited about life. And when crappy things do happen that are outside of your control, that's the key. The crappy things that happen to me are outside of my control. I don't let things that are inside of my control crappy happen, if that makes sense. And when they do, I'm prepared. I've done the emotional work. I've set up systems in my life that prepare me for things I can't control. And I feel the pain and know that it's going to get better.
I love that you brought up control. I've had a few things happen in my life recently. And when I'm with my girlfriends, they're like, are you okay? Like, is everything good? And I've said to them recently, I've said, I cannot waste energy on things that I can't control. I've done what I can do. I'm processing the ways I can. And that's it. Like, there's no point to be upset about the things I cannot control. It's very simple. And there's such a, and it's such a release. And then you get a lot more of inner peace when you just release it. It's weird.
It's so cool. And majority of people are so caught up. I mean, if you've ever been at the airport when there's delays, the line of people screaming at the flight attendant, I'm just like, bye, booked a hotel, handled it. Like, there's nothing you can do.
I've missed flights before and knowing damn well I was going to miss the flight. Am I going to waste my energy yelling at the flight attendant? No, this is my fault. Like, I had to pay and book another flight because I'm an idiot. Like, it's as simple as that. And I managed to do it. I learned my lesson, but I mean, I'm not going to yell at someone because my problem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's just such a domino of negative energy after that too.
It is. The way you start your day, the way you have your afternoon, the way that you have your evening, and it just ripples.
Don't you find sometimes, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, processing emotions can be very inconvenient for me. Like you're upset and then you're like, oh, but I have that entire to-do list, or you're upset, but you're literally at work, like around everyone. And it's like, I know it's better to feel what I'm feeling in the moment, but sometimes I'm like, can I schedule that for later? You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, because I remember vividly one time I was in the bathroom before I went on stage for a speech 5 minutes before. This was my fault. I learned a lesson here. Don't check your email 5 minutes before. I checked my email and I saw that one of my clients that I really loved working with was ending our coaching early. And that was like really upsetting to me. And I did not have time to process my emotions. I had to go give a speech. So I think we all face this sometimes. If possible, I try to process in the moment. So if I'm just working at home and there are things that need to get done by a certain time, but I can take 30 minutes to just like be with myself, I do. Because honestly, I feel so uncomfortable most of the time that I just want to get it over with and release those feelings. It's like I feel so stuck with my emotions that I might as well work through them. But sometimes you can't right in the moment. And that's a part of being emotionally intelligent, being able to get on that stage and still give that speech and then process it later that evening when you do have the capacity to do it.
I could do that. I'll try that next time. Oftentimes I just push it aside and I'll wait till it all piles up and then I'll just have one big cry out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's not healthy at all.
No.
No, I'm working on that. Journaling is helping a lot.
That's my main processing method.
Yeah.
Journal. I usually honestly journal myself to some kind of solution, even if it's not like the greatest thing. I feel like resolved. I'm like, okay, here's what's in my control. Here's what I'm going to do. I feel so empowered. Like I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I feel annoyed. It's okay. I'm allowed to feel all these things. Now, how can I take my power back?
The journal prompts that you were speaking about, and like when you were reading about your past journal entries, that's kind of what mine look like right now. It's like a little fear, but I do have to say my belief is way stronger than my fear, but the fear is still there.
It's always there. I still have it because every level, if you're going to the next level of anything in life, you're going to go to that level past your ceiling of where you're comfortable, and there will be fear. It's just how we're programmed.
It's like getting to like the higher diving board each time. You're like, I know the bottom is the same. Like the bottom is still the same water I keep jumping in, but it still feels scarier every time, you know?
It does.
But the end result is the same.
So true. I like that metaphor.
I want to talk about your first time speaking and also how you got involved in TEDx. I feel like that's like a huge goal of a lot of people. So I want to talk about how you started becoming a speaker, your first time like pitching and whatnot, your first time on stage. So tell us.
Yeah. So I think like a lot of people, I had public speaking experience. I just didn't call it speaking. So like when I was trying to build my app, I was actually like speaking at sororities and I was telling them about this app I was building, asking them if they wanted to be a beta tester and things like that. But my first like paid speech, I remember it very vividly. It was a small group in an auditorium at a college and I was super nervous and I just got up there and did it anyway. I recorded myself. I listened to the recording after. I gave myself lots of encouragement and positive feedback. And I also gave myself some areas where I wanted to improve because I wanted to be the best I could be at my craft. And I still take it that way. I didn't really seriously pitch myself though at that time. I had just like played around with it, one or two speeches through, different connections I had. But January 2019 was when I decided like I was all in on this and I was really going to charge some serious dollars for these speeches. I understood the industry and all these things. I one day went to get my hair done at the hairdresser. I was getting highlights and I told her, yeah, I'm getting my new highlights because I'm going to be going on a speaking tour. And she's like, really? That's so cool. Like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going all over the country, colleges and universities on the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. And I hadn't booked anything yet, but I was speaking it into existence. That's what I was creating. That's what I was committed to doing. I was committed to getting myself booked. And so that's where I was going. And she was like, what do you speak about? And I just started talking about myself as a speaker. And then I went out and I bought some outfits that I was going to wear on stage and just really started to set myself up to identify as a speaker because your identity is everything. Identity creates beliefs create thoughts create words create actions create results. So it all started in that identity. And pretty quickly, I got my first like big gig. It was a stage of 1,000 women. And I was super nervous. Again, I remember like practicing on the airplane, practicing in the hotel room. And I just showed up and gave my all. And it was great. And I just continued from there. And I will say like speaking is definitely my natural gift. It's something that comes very easily to me. And even though I practice and even though I did work on how to write a speech and learning these basic skills, it does come very naturally to me. And I share that because I think everyone has something that comes really naturally to them. I think we have gifts and talents that we're born with for a reason because we're supposed to pursue them in the world. So whatever yours is, please don't let it go to waste.
I'm so glad you brought that up because when I was back, even early in my corporate days and not feeling like this was it, I remember one time when I was really in the pit of like, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going to go? One thing that I did was I wrote down every single job I've ever had, from the first job I had as like a cashier in my uncle's convenience store, being a lifeguard to being a sales associate, everything. And I wrote down every single thing I liked about that job and every single thing I hated about that job. And I did like random things. Like I liked my manager at that job. Oh, but I hated that I had to start work at 8 a.m. at that job. Like I would write down everything. And then when I looked at all of them, I looked at the common themes. And it was very clear what the common themes are. And it all linked back to really my natural skills. So, and then it led me down, okay, if these are my natural skills and what happens naturally and it doesn't feel like work, what career is that? I started identifying what career it was. And it ended up me as a real estate agent. So
I love
think everyone should do that.
That's such a good practice. Thank you for sharing. I honestly might do that with clients.
Please do. No, it's like, it was so funny because the common themes I would always see, the jobs I hated the most was when I wasn't interacting with anyone. The other jobs I hated the most is when I had to be somewhere at a set period of time. Hated that. But what I would always love is the flexibility. I would love when there was lots of people around, and I would love when I was motivated by something.
Makes sense.
Very easy to figure out a career after that. Another question I want to ask you that I thought was really interesting is the fact that you were recording yourself. So I used to do public speaking a lot in high school and like won trips and everything. And I really wish I would have maybe had someone in the back like recording me to be able to critique myself later. Because if you don't do that, you only have other people in the audience's opinion, maybe your family or friends. And of course, they're going to say you did great. I remember listening to a podcast recently of a comedian, and he's a really good comedian. And he would do the same thing where when he was starting his career, and I think even now he still does it, after every set that night, he would go sit in a bar and like write down everything he felt that went well, any like joke that didn't really fly. And he just kept getting better and better and better. And I feel like that's probably like you were doing.
Yeah. And I agree. I still do it. Like whenever I have someone go with me, especially I'll have them take video footage. If I'm just alone, I will record just on my phone audio. And it really helps because if you want to be really confident in something, which if you want to be really successful at something, confidence is huge. You need to be bettering yourself at that craft. Even if it's something you're naturally good at, it's just an essential part of growth. It's like, I love the stories of LeBron of going to practice over and over and over again, even though he was the best. Like, I think it's like, you're not going to practice necessarily to like be better than someone else. It's to be better than you were yesterday.
And also you might be the best today, but if you sit back, there's someone that's practicing, and they're going to be the best.
100%.
There's always someone wanting to do a little bit better than you. Always.
Yeah, it's a good point. And at the same time, you can be like gentle with yourself and take breaks. Yes. Definitely don't believe in like burnout culture, but I do believe in really committing to the things you want to be good at.
Yeah. Again, I look back at my like past careers and I'm like, did I do any research or industry research on the work I was doing? No. So was I really that interested in it? It was just a job. And I find I'm the type of person, it can't just be a job. It has to be a little bit more implemented throughout my entire life. Not everyone's like that, but some people are.
Yeah, I love that.
You have to love it. So tell me about tell me about TEDx. How did we land that?
What I will say here is like to keep it like short and sweet. It's not as hard as you think it is to land. There are so many TEDx events going on all the time, all over the country. And they have call for speakers on their website and you just apply. So I was writing my TEDx. A lot of them have themes, the events. So I would customize my talk or my idea to the event theme. So I would tweak it a little bit, but I just put myself out there for a lot of different events. And finally I got one.
And did that leverage you for so much more after, for speaking?
I would say it's really respected in the speaking industry. And even with coaching, it's kind of like the way I see press. Like, are people reaching out to me like, I saw you in Forbes? I'm going to be honest. No. But when people go to my website and see that I was featured in Forbes and that I gave a TEDx, they're going to hire me, whether to speak, to be their coach. It's just this enhanced level of credibility that I think comes with it. Also, you do have the potential to go viral. I'm still holding out that my TEDx goes viral.
It will.
It's never too late.
I'm like all about TikTok lately in the past like couple of weeks. I've spent so much time on Instagram building it out, and I don't feel like my effort is linked to the ROI. And I'm all about ROI. So I'm like, okay, let's start doing the exact same things on TikTok and we'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, the viral ability, if that's even a word, on TikTok is just so much bigger than Instagram.
Instagram is definitely becoming like more of a shopping app, like more of a catalog, I find. Even like when I post on Instagram, I get too obsessed about it looking perfect. But what I like about TikTok, it's like, I can literally post 3, 4, 5 videos of me like within the same outfit and the same kind of thing. And it's like, doesn't matter because like, it's not like a feed as much as like Instagram is.
That's a good
So
point.
I'm liking the easiness of it and like the less perfect parts of.
I love that. And maybe you can
Yeah.
take that into Instagram.
We really should. The reels are cool. So I'm starting to like that, but I still think it's still too pretty Instagram. I think there's a place for all of it.
I know what you mean.
The last topic I want to talk about is your coaching. So what type of coaching do you do?
Yeah, one-on-one life coaching. So I work with lots of driven women who have big goals. So whether it's to build or grow a business, to figure out what kind of career change they want to make, just to improve their mindset and just help them get clear on the steps, do the things, overcome the mindset blocks that are holding them back, and really create their dream life. Because like I said, like we all deserve that. I'm really passionate about specifically helping women create their dream lives because it impacts so many other people. Like the amount of impact, and my husband would come on this show and say it, that my self-development has had on him is incredible. That it's had on my parents, that it's had on my siblings, that it's going to have on my future children. So it's like women are just such forces for cohesiveness in a unit, whether it's family or friendships or their professional colleagues and their coworkers. There's such a ripple effect of us creating lives we love. It really does set an example for so many others. So
I totally agree. I don't know what it is about women versus men, but yeah, we do have a very
we're the glue.
We really are. Like it's weird when you say that. I could have a really positive guy friend. And I'm like, yeah, he's a positive guy friend. But if I have a positive girlfriend, I'm like, the energy just like gets embedded in my veins. I don't know what it is.
Feminine energy versus masculine energy. And we all have feminine and masculine in us.
Totally.
And there's different times to turn it on, but feminine energy is really powerful, very magnetic.
What do you find as some of the most common blocks that your clients are coming to you with? Because obviously they're already successful and driven. So what's blocking them?
It's a lot of things. Money is like a huge topic where people just, you don't know what you don't know, especially if you're trying to build a business. Like
in terms of spending money or the amount of money they could make?
Both, like how to manage it, what kind of things to spend their time on to create more, how to create a more like sustainable or scalable business. I would say it's more in business that I find people struggling with money, but in career, like they just might not be making enough at their job and they don't know like what opportunities are out there where they could make more money to live their dream life. Like basically, it's like I want people's dream life to match with their income. And that doesn't mean that you have to make millions of dollars. That's a misconception. People, what I have my clients always do is exercise. And if you are like, I don't know how much money my dream life is, please do this exercise. Just write down like, where would I want to live? What are the basic things I want? So, you know, the basics in your monthly income, like let's say you say, okay, I want to live in a house. The mortgage is this much. Let's say you want to join this gym. You want to be able to spend this much on groceries. You want to have this much to save every month so that you feel very comfortable. You want to have this much for vacation, this much for gifts, whatever. Map it all out. That's your monthly income goal. After tax. So remember,
I love that.
Tax. So then you have to add back in the tax and then you will figure out what's your dream income. So then when we get there, it's like, okay, how do you want to get there? So if in a career, okay, what career will set you up for that, right? If it's in a business, what are the blocks? And we get more into like the strategy of their business. So money's huge. And then I would say just like mindset in general, a lot of women hold themselves back because they just don't have enough confidence. They just don't feel like they're enough. And sometimes just to have someone to look at what they're doing and say, no, you're doing the right things is huge. And then the second part of it is helping them rewire their brain in the areas where someone telling them, hey, keep going is not enough. They have identity blocks. They have strong limiting beliefs. To really like be able to get to the root of that and work on rewiring their brain is huge.
I love the dream life money thing that you're talking about. I recently moved into an apartment that almost essentially doubled my rent. And I mean, I had pretty cheap rent in Toronto, but I moved into like my own place and pretty much, doubled my expenses in terms of housing. And the reason why I did that is because I know what my motivating factors are. And because I work in a completely commission-based business, I knew that if I kept that cheap rent, I would keep playing small. So now it's like I've doubled, like not doubled all of my expenses, but doubled this expense so that like, okay, every month I I've increased the bare minimum I need to make by a ton.
Yeah.
Because
And
if I kept it the other way, I would have been like, okay, well, my bills are paid. Any bit extra is great. But now it's like,
right.
that's a little bit more. So I got to like
Right.
hustle a little bit more. But I'm motivated by that.
I love that. And one of the reasons I love coaching is because that motivates you. But I have other clients who they would literally like shut down and like give up if they had that experience.
Yeah.
So it's really important to know there's like not one size fits all. And when you're listening to podcasts and things, like it's about knowing yourself. That's the most important thing, and figuring out like what motivates you, what resonates with you, knowing that there's no one size fits all. And you might take bits and pieces of something you hear on this podcast and bits and pieces of something you heard on another podcast and find your way. And I think that's what it's really about.
So true. Last couple of questions for you. We've talked a lot about failure and how we have to do a lot of failure in order to get to the success that we want. So my question to you right now is, what today are not struggling, but like stumbling around on the pursuit of success?
I would say where I stumble is short term versus long term, because my goals are really, really big. And so a lot of them require time and energy. Like, for example, I'm writing my third book, but I don't make any money on my book until it's published. And even when it's published, unless I'm selling like hundreds of thousands of copies, I'm not making a lot of money. So do I spend my time today applying for speaking gigs, or do I spend my time working on my book? So what I've personally done is come up with a system. And so I'm in process. I say I'm kind of like still navigating it, but I've come up with a plan that seems like it's working of, okay, what amount of money do I enjoy making where I feel very comfortable? I have financial freedom, but where I could like basically stop there in terms of getting new business. Because like as an entrepreneur, a lot of my day is still like doing those things to get the next sale, the next business, right? The next client, as opposed to just like serving and doing the work I'm already contracted for and such. So once I hit that number each month or for the year, depending on how far ahead I get, then I spend all my time on the long term. And that's been the way I've been able to balance it. I think that this only really applies to people who have like really, really big long-term things they want to do that are, I don't want to say different from what you're doing now, but just like so much bigger that the things you're doing now, they add up, but they also don't. Like if I didn't spend any time in the long term, I could be doing the same thing I'm doing now and having this like business that's solid and provides for me. But I want to write a New York Times bestselling book. I want to be on stage at South by Southwest. I want to be doing these things that are so much bigger that they are going to take time and energy.
What I'm hearing, and I'm resonating because this is the shit that I deal with. It's working in your business versus on your business. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you make money for yourself, it's really hard not to work in your business and just keep chasing the money. Like it's so hard. And it's funny, we become entrepreneurs because we want to leave the rat race, and then we create our own damn rat race in our own house.
100%. I think something I realize is that I'm driven just as much by my vision, if not more, than I am by money. Like money is really motivating up until a certain point. There's actually like a few studies on money and happiness. And one of them that I love is like up until $75,000 a year, your happiness will increase with your income, and then it will just plateau and remain constant as your income increases. And so like I'm at that level. And so I care so much more about like my full potential that I know is there inside of me. I know I'm going to have millions of dollars. Like that just feels inevitable for me in the life I'm choosing to create. But it's not the thing that is like, oh my God, if I can go make an extra quick blah, blah, blah amount of money, if it's not doing work that's in alignment with my vision, I don't want to do it.
That's what I need to work on, is spending more energy on thinking about the vision and the long-term plan and not today's task or this month's business goals.
Yeah. I dream about it every morning. My vision,
Good.
I'm very spiritual. So I just imagine like God having this like list of things like, this is your full potential, Jaclyn. You have a choice to bring it to life or not. And I just feel like it's like my duty to the world.
I love that. Last but not least, any last hit home advice for anyone listening today?
Know that what's coming for you is better than you can imagine.
Ooh, I thought I was pretty good at coming out what could come, but yeah, you're probably right. It's probably better than we can expect ever.
I mean, even now, like as much as in the beginning, I said, oh, I'm going to do so much more. And I've always known that. At the same time, sometimes I'm like, pinch me. Like, is this my home? Is this my life? Am I going on that stage to speak to all these people? Like, it's just so magical, especially when you just like dream up things and you're like, I want this and this. And then an opportunity just like feels like it falls right into your lap. Right. And it's like, wow, what's coming truly is so much better than you can imagine. So trust it and keep going.
Jaclyn, for anyone who wants to connect further after this episode, where can they find you?
Yeah. So I actually love Instagram.
I do too. I just can't get growth there. I'm like caught up in the algorithms.
I feel that. I'm Jaclyn_Gallo. I'm also on TikTok, Jaclyn_Gallo. And if you love podcasts, my podcast is called Spark Your Light.
Love it. I don't know where you get the time to do it all. I mean, any of us, we're so motivated by bigger vision. So yeah, that's where we find more hours in the day, I guess.
I just love it.
I know.
I just love my work. So I want to do it, you know,
and
I don't have children or anything yet. Like if you're listening and you're a mom or a dad, or, you know, you have something in your life that is really taking a lot of your time. Like I'm just at the stage where it's like all career still. So I'm like, let's do it all.
No, that's totally fair. Jaclyn, thank you so much for sharing your story and all of the failures that have led to a lot of wins, and they keep going. You've been an inspiration to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Did you know that I'm not only a podcast host, but in my full-time career, I am a Toronto-based real estate agent. In 2021, I closed 100 deals. Yes, you heard that correctly, 100. So if you or someone you know is a busy professional looking to get into the Toronto real estate market and looking to work with a realtor who values your time, make sure to reach out to me and let's get connected. And in the meantime, we'll see you here back next week.